So if you're starting
From scratch.
from scratch, my advice to you is to go into high quality, low frequency. You focus on creating a nice piece of content, whether it's video, post, article, whatever it is, and you publish it on your platform, the one that you can stay consistent on. What people say about you to a certain extent represents more than what you say about yourself. The more the transaction is big, the more you have to say. That's what I would like to make it in relational aspect.
In our lives, we cross different bridges. And what these bridges have in common is about our ability to communicate as human beings through letters, through emails, or even through art. And in this episode, we talk more about personal branding. We had the pleasure of hosting Mr. Ameer Albahouth, CEO and founder of Arbaaa Marketing. We talked about personal branding. Is it for everyone? And how has AI affected personal branding? We talked about that and more in this episode. Please do enjoy. Thank you. Let's start off with this.
Sure.
Now you've been kind of an expert, I would say, an expert in the brand building or personal brand building. You've helped multiple people, higher ups, I believe even C-level and even below that.
And ministers.
And ministers. I don't want to get into names, but in general.
No need for names, but yani, that's the highest level I worked with, basically.
Exactly. Now, from your perspective, I'd like you, because again, personal branding has been a trend for a while now.
Yes.
I'd like you first to define it from your perspective.
Sure.
And what are some misconceptions that you've seen in the market about personal branding, and how did it affect your work in general? Please.
Definitions are always good to start with. If we want to define personal branding, think of it as your reputation. As simple as that. What is the reputation associated to your name? Very simple concept. And it's been around since the beginning of time. And one very important saying that I always repeat is, your reputation, you have to protect it with your life. The personal branding, personally, I think is not just a privilege or something you must have when you have the right time and the right resources. It's something you're doing regardless. Your reputation is already established in the market, most of the time based on your work, because most people define themselves based on what they do. I am a doctor, I am an engineer, I am a nurse, I am X and Y and Z. But this is the initial kind of personal branding الناس يؤمنون فيه. But here in Saudi, we have even a higher level, which is, where do you come from? What's your family? Which, tribe do you belong to? What kind of belief system you believe in? The personal branding has always been around, but had different, خلينا نقول, different labels over time. And over time, it has shifted from, I'm a fan of Al-Hilal, to a fan of Al-Nasr, to I practice this exercise, to whatever. So think of a personal brand as everything you do packaged in a specific perception, a specific idea people have about you. You're somebody who does this. Oh, he's known for this. Oh, he is this. He's the go-to for that. Whether she is the go-to for a specific thing to be done. The personal branding, regardless, whether you work on it or not, it's basically what people say about you. I think Jeff Bezos said this, is what people say about you when you leave the room. To simplify it. That you can either intentionally work on building it, or you can make it organically basically happen based on what you like and what you do and what you say and all of that.
Before we get into the misconceptions of what people might have or what you have seen in the market, you just mentioned something that I'd like for you to delve or say dig deeper from within. Is the fact of association. Now, yes, we as human beings, we also associate ourselves with, our tribes, our profession and occupation, and so on and so forth. Now, there are two schools of thought when it comes to that. Correct me if I'm wrong. That some people would say, if you associate yourself with your career, at a certain time, you would lose identity, because once you leave that career or you make a career shift, it would make it a bit harder.
Yes.
While others would say, okay, define your personal identity based on your values. Okay, I am truthful, I work hard. Don't associate with your profession or career.
Okay.
What do you say to that?
Well, it's all valid, and the fact that it's in the market, it just validates it validates the fact that it's an actual reality. Now, what I can clarify here is, What you focus on is what people see, right? What you actually say is what people see. And if you see it from what's called a strategic communication angle, there's always 3 or 4 different angles you can talk about, right? There's the owned media, the things that you own, your own social media, your LinkedIn, Instagram, X, whatever platform you're on. So that's what you own. There's the shared media, which is, let's say, the content that comes out from your company and your name is in it. The content that comes from your friends and they say, we have gone to this and that, and you were part of the team. So this is shared media, you and other people. Then there's the earned media, which comes usually later in life, is when media starts talking about you as the leader of your organization or an initiative or whatever you're saying. So what people are saying about you in different social media platforms or magazines or newspaper or whatever channels, if you want to take the basics of marketing. Then you have the last but not least is the paid media. So where do you pay to show up? So in terms of the, say, the CEOs or sometimes on higher level people, we will pay to basically have them positioned in Forbes, Fast Company, any specific platforms that position them for what we want them to be known for. So you can work with it at different levels, from what you own to what you share to what you earn to finally what you actually pay to be seen as. Sometimes people mix, they start with paid and it becomes really, really bad because it doesn't represent their own media. So if people are saying in big magazines, you're top in X and Y and Z, but your own media doesn't represent that, there's a disconnection. So the 4 different types of media have to be aligned.
Does it also have to be authentic in that
It
regard?
has to be authentic. Otherwise, it will be, you cannot, let me rephrase it. You cannot sustain an act forever. You cannot continue acting to be something you're not. So sometimes personal branding, and now we maybe move towards the conceptions. Sometimes people think if I talk about a specific topic all the time, I created my personal brand. I'm known to be the person who talks about sports. So they just literally recreate content and share it, خلينا نقول LinkedIn, and think that creates their personal brand. Oh, it's an amazing to see what's happening with this club X and Y and Z. And it's just a fact, and they're reproducing the fact on their accounts. Now, when facts are reproduced, they don't build a personal brand.
What does it build?
They build association. Oh, Flan is a big fan of specific topic. But it doesn't give you personal branding. Personal branding is built when you start thinking and talking about your thoughts. When you start presenting, I would call it thought leadership. So what you believe is important regarding this specific event. What's your take on a specific information or a specific fact? Here, you build your personal brand because people are seeing your thought leadership. People are seeing what your thought process are regarding a specific topic.
It's kind of having a valid opinion, so to speak.
Exactly. Your own valid opinion. Sometimes it goes with what people believe, and sometimes it's, not necessarily the mainstream opinion. And this is when you show up as a personal brand. I have my own take on specific things. And over time, you build the reputation of he has a specific way of seeing these topics in this specific industry. Over time, you start becoming called as a speaker, you become a moderator. And as time passes, you become an expert matter on that specific topic, on that specific niche you have associated with your personal brand, and you have shown competence regarding your ideas around it.
Before moving to the conceptions, there's something that I actually tapped into. Well, I was gonna get to it later, but thank you for tapping into that, let's say, perspective, which is specialization versus overall. Now, some people would say, and I've seen that, where people would say, I don't want to be jack of all trades, even though he or she has the ability to do so. So he has expertise in sports, entertainment, tourism, whatever it is, but he chooses a specific topic so that people can associate him with, and he can be an authentic voice. And, other people would say, no, I'm good with all these, in all these sectors. I have an opinion and I have a valid experience with all these sectors. So I'm going to showcase myself as someone who is valid in marketing, thought leadership, tourism, regardless, cars, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to present myself as someone who is a jack of all trades. So what's your take on that? Does it hurt the personal branding in the long term, on the short term? How would you What's your take on that?
Let's break it down to the basics of how you build a personal brand, right? So there's two strategies. There's high frequency, low quality, and there's high quality, low frequency. So that's the basic. You choose one of the two. Do you want to be the one who talks every other day, every week? So this is more of a higher frequency. Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, X, you're more into the feed content and you're continuously creating a piece of content that's not in depth, doesn't go deep into the idea and the development, but it represents the fact you're up to date with this sector.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the high frequency, and a lot of people use that, especially on Snapchat, since Snapchat is based on the super high frequency content.
Mm-hmm.
So you can build a personal brand on Snapchat, superficial. The more superficial, the more you're gonna grow, the more you're gonna reach people, the more you stay at the top, because that's when you have a lot of people interested in your content. Then you go on the other side, super, super deeper, where you create your own YouTube channel. And now you're in like an expert matter with a specific niche, and you go all in and you publish content around that regularly, whether if you can do it every month, every week, depends. But the concept here is how deep are you going with the knowledge and how frequent are you publishing?
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to be high frequency and high quality, but if you have the resources, you can push. You can have people working with you to create high quality at high frequency. And we have Alex Hermosi, we have Gary Vee, we have those gigantic personal brands who have agencies behind them to build their actual content at high frequency with the high quality.
Which is more effective with these two strategies that you just mentioned?
Depending on the resources you have. So if you're starting
From scratch.
from scratch, my advice to you is to go into high quality, low frequency. You focus on creating a nice piece of content, whether it's video, post, article, whatever it is, and you publish it on your platform, the one that you can stay consistent on. So if your best skills at the moment is audio, then start up an audio podcast and publish consistently that type of content. If you're much better at giving your opinion about things, then I would go straight to X and give my opinion every day about specific things that I want to be associated with my brand. If you're good in video, then it depends. Are you educational or entertainment?
Mm-hmm.
If you're entertainment and dailies, I will go into Snapchat and start creating content with high frequency. If you're video but low, then you're going to go to YouTube
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to go leave low frequency but high depth
Mm-hmm.
or high quality in terms of the content. So it's always depending on what frequency you can handle and how deep you want to go.
Okay.
As a starting point with no resources, no team, no someone behind you helping you in the execution.
Okay.
For the easiest, low frequency and super focused on one platform.
Now let me just take two steps back to a point where you just mentioned about the shared media, let's say organic versus paid media. Let's
Sure.
put it in this perspective. From the get-go, someone who's beginning from scratch, no channels, he doesn't know where he starts from. He's gonna start from Snapchat. He's still in the research phase to define himself where he needs to go. At what moment, or what do you say? Should he start organically first, then paid later, or should he start paid with that strong momentum, and then he can gradually, organically increase or continue posting organically? So that, say, sweet spot between organic and paid media, where does it land?
I think the anchor on how you make that decision is based on where you're at in your professional development.
Meaning?
Meaning, if you're in the beginning of your professional development years, right, you have less than 5 years of experience, for example, then my suggestion is to go organic 100%. Because you still don't have enough expertise in whatever field you're in. You're still developing it. So it's much better to start organic. And as you start with the creation of your content and the sharing, you're also developing your knowledge in the field. So I do 1 year, 2 years of just super organic content as much as possible. And as I'm doing the organic and I'm increasing my frequency over time and my quality, I'm diving deep into the niche I want to be known for.
Mm-hmm.
But another person who's starting 15 years into their expertise, right, into their niche or whatever they're doing, they have a completely different strategy. They will go more, they're already at the top. They already have the expertise. So now they need to go into paid media. because they need to reach
reach
more
more
people,
people.
right? Because they already have their message, they already know and have the solid information and the solid opinion about what they're doing. It's just a matter of where do they put it, when do they put it, how deep are they going into the content. So it's always customized. Even if in the agency, when we're working with clients, it's never the same.
Mhm.
It's always a plan regarding, okay, what's our go-to-market strategy? What do you want to achieve? Do you want to be known as an expert? Do you want to launch a product in 6 months? Do you want to create experiences, global experiences, local experiences? Do you want to write a book, right?
Mhm.
So the end goal of building your personal brand has to be established. Do you want to get a better job? That's a normal one. You want to get a better job? That's fantastic. I want to get a raise within my company. Cool. So depending on your goal, you will create, I would call them the marketing mix,
Mhm.
right? What's the personal branding strategy that will achieve that goal for you within the timeline? Sometimes the timeline is too short, so you need to go into paid media
Mhm.
because you want to reach a lot more people in a shorter time. But
Mhm.
if you're at the beginning of your journey and you're at the beginning of developing your expertise, now it's just a matter of documenting your knowledge acquiring experience and your opinion on it,
Mhm.
which is very important. Don't just say, I'm happy that I attended this workshop, right? Don't say, oh, I'm, glad to say that I had this experience in this place and this. No, give me a little bit of insight on what you have gained. What is your actual opinion about this experience that you went through, whatever it is? What did you actually learn? How that learning is going to impact your life. Are you going to come back to an event like this in the future? You can do even a call to action. If you are doing anything like this in the future, I would love to be part of it,
Mhm.
right? So when you're communicating, you're showing your intent. You're not just documenting an event in your life. You have to show, here's the hook. This is what I learned. This is what's really interesting. Here's what happened. So this is the story. And at the end, there has to be a call to action. If you're working on something like this, I would love to be part of it.
Mhm.
Oh, if you know any event like this, please send them my side. I would like to attend. Or I would love to do something like this. Who would like to collaborate?
Mhm.
So that call to action shows that you have a drive, have an intent, have an actual thing that you want to execute,
Mhm.
not necessarily just documenting the process of your life. Documenting the process of your life will most likely not get any engagement,
Mhm.
but you're building a personal brand. So I cannot say it's not important. It will do something, but that's like the bare minimum.
But let's move into the misconceptions. Then we're going to get back into a couple of extra points. Now, throughout your experience and the people you dealt with, and going back to the point that you just mentioned, so the customization. So, for example, if a fresh graduate from university, he should like stick to the point of okay, documenting his sharing knowledge, starting organically, a bit by bit, step by step. While, for example, a CEO or a minister or whatever who still hasn't really gone out there on media, then he can go into the paid aspect of okay, yes, I have the knowledge, I have the expertise. It's about showing it to the people that yes, here I am, and I'm on social media or in media actively. Is that correct? And that's
Yes, but I don't want you to see it as these big limits. See it on the availability of resources and expertise,
mhm,
just to simplify it,
mhm.
right? As you're starting your life, most of the time, some people have resources at the beginning of their professional work, right?
Yes,
So it's a different conversation, but we're talking about, خلينا نقول, most people,
yes,
right? The general, when they start, they don't necessarily have a lot of resources, but they have a lot of time.
mhm,
And that time help them learning more skills, helping them getting more knowledge, helping go to more places. So it's about their opinion and the questions they're asking about getting this knowledge and this, experiences, these events they go to, whatever it is. The goal is to show, here's how I grow. This is what, have I learned. This is what I have seen. But here's what's changing in me. Here's how it's actually affecting my professional development or helping me to keep it even more specific. This is how this thing is helping me achieve my goal.
so we're kind of creating a journey for yourself and
Yes,
people to
and you're telling people about your goals,
mhm,
right? So my goal is one day to have my own university of teaching people personal branding, creating their own story, maybe short documentaries, anything related about communication,
mhm,
right? So everything I'm going to do, everything you're going to see about me is going from that I'm an expert in communication, that I've worked as an advisor in communication. Here's tips for you to communicate better. Here's a YouTube channel that can help you communicate more. through marketing. Here's a book that I've written about how you communicate better with your team. And it becomes, there's a goal to be an expert in communication, and everything you have done, including what you studied, courses you've done, people you've
Supports
met,
that goal.
people will see over time that that's where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And when you document it, you're saying, one day I will do that on my way to publish my book. Here's all these books that I've read, and here's what I learned from them.
Mm-hmm.
Now in my head, I'm challenging myself on how is culture important in communication on social media when the social media is globalized?
Mm-hmm.
How can I understand that? How can I definitely be the best to communicate specific messages on a global stage, but also make sure that it touches the local community and culture? Then here are the books that I've read. Here are the events that I went to. This is a person I'm getting coaching from. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's that idea of telling your long-term story, but on specific bites. And as time passes, people will say, obviously, he is this now, or obviously, she is this now. She's been talking about getting there and becoming and reaching there over time.
So kind of defining a clear objective and a goal, so that at the end of the day, whatever you might do, it will support or build like a brick by brick kind of a thing until you reach, okay, yes, this is what I want to go to. Thank you very much. Now, going to the misconceptions at the right
Sure.
now. Now, you've dealt with many people. What is the most common misconception that you have seen when it comes to personal branding on that regard?
I think it's a lot of people think it's just talking about yourself. This is the biggest misconception.
What do you define talking about here?
That you're talking about yourself. I've done this, I went there, I did that, I read this. It's basically documenting your daily life and sharing it with people. So that's the biggest misconception. And people still do that. People think it's that, and they apply that as their daily practice, and they think they're building their personal brand. But the reality is to see how this knowledge or how this event or how this course or how this interaction have developed you to reach your goal. That's the real personal branding.
Okay.
Is to talk about every milestone, every event as a milestone that got you closer towards who you want to be. So there's actual learning, there's actual transformation that you're going through. But sometimes people will talk things that doesn't give them any transformation. They just attended an event, happy that I attended this event. But does it? So attending this event, how did this actually get you closer towards who you want to be seen at?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be an expert in public speaking. Let's talk about that, right? So it's really nice that you go to events and, oh, I'm happy that I went to Saudi speakers event, for example.
Shout out to Rakan al-Khalid.
Right? So I'm super happy I went to this event. Okay, good. You went to this event. Amazing. But it would be much nicer if you say, and I learned from Ameer what it means to understand what people say about you. And for me, the understanding was that what people say about me is out of my hand. But Ameer said, no, it's actually about what you present to them over time. That directs how they see you.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the part I actually said on stage,
Mm-hmm.
is people would actually have an understanding of who you are and what's your reputation based on what other people say about you. But if you say enough about yourself, people will actually consider that as who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Most people just, no, I don't want to talk about it. No, I don't want people to see me. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be loud. I don't want to be noisy. I don't want to be the one who talks about himself or herself all the time, because they see it as just documenting what they're doing, not showing their thought process, not showing what they have learned, what they have gained, what they have transformed through joining these courses or these events or these topics that they have explored through content or anything else.
Now, here's a point. Actually, subhanallah. A couple of days before, we had Hamid Qahtani in our podcast, and he said the thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, on how we can connect it to personal branding, that people sometimes are annoyed when you portray yourself as the hero. I'm the hero. I did this. Or continue to say I. While if you inject someone else as the hero and in a speech, for example, I've done this, I've done that, but at the same time, I've had help from XYZ. I got mentoring from this guy, from my mother, from my father. People will still be connected. Now, from this perspective, Do you think that at the same time, when it comes to personal branding, associating other people, organizations, third parties, does it evolve your personal branding or not necessarily?
100%. But again, this is cultural.
Okay.
So there's the depth of culture here. So I
Yes.
was in Canada for 11 years. Association with others might weaken your personal branding and how you show up. In the Middle East or collective cultures, and if we go to the basics, and the individualistic culture,
Yes.
and you have collective cultures. These are the two خلينا نقول agreed upon different kinds of cultures. Here in the kingdom, we have a collective culture, which means what people say about you to a certain extent represents more than what you say about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important that when you talk, you actually talk within the group. If the group agrees with your opinion, there's a more likelihood that more people will agree with it than if you just present your opinion alone.
Okay.
So when we think about personal branding here, and we have built 14 different platforms to build personal brands in specific niches. And it's all about us talking about them, us telling their story. Because we know, and I remember when I came back to Saudi 2021, I realized that people don't talk about themselves. And I just came from Canada. All I did is personal branding, influencers, doctors, magazines, clinics, all of that work. And I came here, I'm like, I meet some incredible people and I look them up online. There's nothing. So I was like, okay, if they're not telling their stories, we might as well tell it and make sure it's documented. Because when people here in the kingdom, they don't find خلينا نقول incredible names with amazing achievements and crazy things that's been done, especially in the let's say 10 years ago. There wasn't much of content. Then when we started we started creating content in Arabic only, which again limiting for the world to read about us. So we focused more in Arabic and محتوى العربي and all of that, which is amazing and incredible to increase the amount of content, but it doesn't mean that we only create in Arabic. We create in Arabic and in English. Especially now with AI, all the content that is indexed first in English, then given to the world in any other language, including Arabic. So we focused on the creating platforms English first to document the stories of the amazing personal brands we have in the kingdom. So when we post it on LinkedIn and tag them, it reaches 33,000, 50,000, 100,000 impressions because they didn't write it about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else wrote it about them. And they will be more than happy to repost it. And the people who know them will be more than happy to actually comment and say, wow, this is amazing. Yes, well deserved, incredible person. But if they wrote the same content about themselves, it will not get the same
Mm-hmm.
engagement or even reach. You see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important. And this was part of the talk I gave in Saudi Speakers of like, we're all here. What do we say about others? What do I say about Murtada? Do I mention his name? We spoke about Khalid and Rakan,
Mm-hmm.
the founder of Saudi Speakers. Are we telling, oh, they're incredible people, amazing content they create, their channels are very nice. So it's much easier for me to talk about them than talk about myself and my channel and how many we reached,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's very important to think it's a lot easier in a collective culture to talk about other people and actually give the credit to them and their incredible work than to talk about yourself. So it's important to create a group of supporters, people who believe in what you say and you believe in what they say, and you guys support each other and create the content. And you can see it here. What is the biggest and most successful accounts on social media? The clans,
Oh, yes.
right?
Okay.
For the e-games, for Abu Hassa, for Madri Meen. It's a group of people who are creating content together all the time.
Correct.
Right? This is what works here. If they just talk themselves, but when it's a group, 3, 4, 5 different influencers or creators, the effect of that is a lot more powerful in the collective culture.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to have 3, 4 people who you all believe in each other and what you do, and you always support each other. The effect of that is going to be 100% higher, if not even more, for each one of you, because you're telling the stories of what they're doing. And we do it in corporate. So in companies, the heads will also cross market each other.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about what finance is doing. He's talking about the operations, talking about the marketing, and there's that cross promotion. Then the whole team in the organization is also supporting the content created by the leaders. That will have a lot more reach than if the leaders just talk about themselves.
Is that even when it comes to that, for example, clans, I believe there are also some clubs in the Western world, maybe Britain, USA. They're also successful, even though it's an individualistic society, as you mentioned. But I believe some models, even if they might work most probably in the West, they might also work in the East, and vice versa. Don't you agree?
Definitely, depending on the sector,
Okay.
right? So if we're talking about sports, it's all about groups, right?
Yes.
It's the groups we all belong as fans of Real Madrid, Barcelona, or whatever. So it's the sector specific.
Mhm.
But when we talk about personal brands, حتى even in the international clubs, you will see, for example, Mbappe as a personal brand on its own, right? Holland will be
Holland.
Holland will be his own
Mhm.
personal brand. Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, all of these are the, I would say, the biggest personal brands that have been created over time. And the association with others in the individualistic world is not actually powerful.
Mhm.
So Cristiano Ronaldo will be Cristiano Ronaldo, right? That's his personal brand. He has CR7 now as a brand, and it just continues to grow around that person.
Mhm.
Here, you will have it a little bit different. Falcon as a team, whoa, became international, global winner of the World Cup, I think, of
Well, they
e-games.
won a lot of games. Yes.
Right? They won a lot, mashallah.
Inshallah.
فthat made them as a group a lot more powerful than each one of them alone in a collective culture.
Mhm.
See the difference?
Okay. Now there are I would say two concepts I've gone through or I've seen, and I'd like to hear your take on that. The first one, they're going to get into the next one, which is the fact that a lot of people might associate personal branding with the looks. So, for example, talking about the way you dress, might hire a photographer, a professional photographer, to take some beauty shots of him or her, and then he would post it on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, and then he would write a couple of texts about herself or himself. Now, some people would say it's a personal brand. Some people say it's just like a beauty shot because he or she, they're good looking.
Yeah.
Would you say that this is also personal branding, or is just like it would define something as personal content? That's
I
it.
think in this case, we have to go back to the concept of a brand, right? Regardless whether it's a personal brand or a company or whatever it is.
Mhm.
A brand is, what is the definition of a brand? What comes to mind?
Association, like okay, Apple with innovation.
Okay,
I would say Mercedes with the class, um, Toyota with efficiency, that kind of thing.
cool.
Like associating with different values. So
Usually, if we want to summarize, it's a whole different world.
it
It's a
is
promise,
okay because it's
right? It's a promise. A brand is a promise.
Mhm.
Apple will promise you design, right? Anything that comes from Apple will be extremely well designed.
Mhm.
That's the world of it.
Mhm.
Now, when you're building a personal brand, to a certain extent, you're giving people a specific promise. Whatever that promise is, right? Is it efficiency? Is it speed? Is it knowledge? Is it depth in thoughts? Whatever you want to create, you just want to make sure that your promise is clear to people, right? My promise is I want people to communicate better. Now, how can I make that a reality? We'll do the podcast on marketing. We'll do another podcast on advisory. We'll do advisory for companies for communication. We'll go on the idea, anything related to communication at a better level.
Mhm.
So, as a personal brand, you can go into visual identity, right? How the person looks is extremely important. So, if you want to go into fashion or makeup, of course, you're going to be extremely visual.
Photogenic and
Not necessarily photogenic, but you will have a whole set of editorial photography, better lighting, better maybe makeup, better outfits, because that's your promise,
correct.
right? If you follow me, my personal brand is that you become better looking.
Mhm.
That's a promise of my personal brand,
Mhm.
right? Another one, let's say Gary V. Do you think he cares about what he's dressed? He has absolutely no clue on what is fashion, I think. He
Mhm.
doesn't care.
Mhm.
Like, oh, what's happening today? Let me wear it and get out. Since the beginning of time, he doesn't care about look, but he cares about substance. He cares about the actual content shared. Is this visionary? Is this from the future? He talked about personal brands before it was even an idea,
Mhm.
right? Then he pushed for it over time to become the person he represents personal branding and continues to develop. So he's always ahead of time regarding personal branding and marketing and all of that world.
Mhm.
So a personal brand is part of it is visual, but it's more focused on the promise. What is your promise? Now, are you doing everything that makes this promise a reality? Sometimes it's audio, sometimes it's the outfit, sometimes it's the colors, sometimes it's your website, sometimes it's the content in your book. Depends. So there's no actual rules, or do you really have to look incredible all the time? If your goal is that, then yes. If your brand communicates that, then absolutely. So if you're selling luxury cars or watches, and your promise is that you get people the best cars and watches, what do I expect you to look like?
Someone who standing on business looks like money.
Right? So that's an expectation to achieve that promise. If you're selling real estate, I have an expectation. If your promise is that you will get me the best house in Dubai, then the promise should be, or everything around your communication should be, you know everything in Dubai, you know people in Dubai, you know everything to be done there, you know every street that has an opportunity, you're connected, your content should communicate everything that makes me trust that you can achieve the promise, whatever the promise is.
Mhm.
You see the idea? So this is my promise as a brand, as a personal brand. How is every touch point with my personal brand communicating something that proves that my promise is possible?
Okay, so it's not about, like, for example, if I put two people. For example, let's say, let's talk about business world, for example, or
Sure,
economics.
sure.
And you have two people, one who's good looking and one who's not that good looking, for example. Would you say that the one who's good looking might have an advantage over the one who's not?
100%.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot ignore that. That's proven by science and everything.
Yes.
And I think it's the number one thing in salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
Successful salespeople, 30-40% higher just because they look better.
But regardless of sales, like, for example, if I'm going to talk about personal brand itself,
Yes,
it's also going to.
it will definitely have an effect.
Another misconception that's happening, or let's say a point. I wouldn't say
But again, let's
Mhm.
just go back into the definition of that. It's
Please.
not beauty as the idea of beauty is, are they taking care of themselves? Are they
Oh.
presenting themselves wearing wearing the right clothes and
Mhm.
the right light? Because there are a lot of beautiful people, they don't know how to take care of themselves.
Mhm.
Right? So it's not just the inherited beauty. There's a lot that could be done to make anyone look better.
So it's not just about the inherited beauty.
Exactly. The
That's my
inherited
point.
beauty, I think, is just 10% or 20% of the effect. It's just how you highlight it.
Okay.
If we turn off the lights, we will
Mhm.
not look as good as we look right now.
Okay.
Right? And it's just lights.
Mhm.
So imagine adding makeup, adding outfits, adding locations where you shoot, add association, what you're dressed. I'm wearing whoop, wearing a watch. All of these things are beautifying the shot. It's elements in the image.
Mhm.
And they all make the score of the beauty of the shot higher.
Okay.
So it's not just the inherited beauty, it's how you package yourself to the world, including how you dress, how you talk, how you present your ideas.
So it's not about the natural beauty, so to speak.
No. It's not about that.
Okay.
It's a very simple thing about it. But some people put a lot of weight on it. And that's up to them, and they can fix it with so many different ways.
Mhm.
Or they can just go into a medium that doesn't really show who they are. Writing, voice, podcast. There's so many different ways. And the beauty here will be the voice, the
Yes.
editing of the podcast, it's a lot. Now we live mostly in the virtual world.
Mhm.
You can beautify anything on the virtual world,
Mhm.
right? So if that's the thing that's stopping you from showing up, there's an issue of what you're focusing on.
Mhm.
It has to be on the content. It has to be on the value you're sharing with the world. It's not how you look.
Okay. See your
So
point.
if that's what's stopping you, there's a big issue there because you're not focusing on the right thing. Building a personal brand always, especially the one that succeeds very well, it's never on the looks only.
Mhm. It's
There's a
about.
lot more. What's the value exchange that's happening? It could be entertainment, it could be education, it could be 1,000 things. Just
Okay.
think, what's the value exchange? And
Mhm.
you're exchanging people's time or people's attention with the content that you're sharing with them.
Okay. Another thing that I've seen on X before, one of the managing directors of an agency, I'm not gonna say the name, but the point was that it was a point taken regarding the magazines or PR associated magazines that highlight some people through paid media. So, for example, you're a CEO, you go to a certain magazine or a very well known PR agency. You pay them heavy amount of money for them to show your name across the region. And the point the magic director was saying is that it lacks authenticity. Let's say that director believes that anything should come from within. So a PR agency should approach me and they should post my picture or write about me with no charges whatsoever, because they want to talk about me rather than I have to pay them to talk about me. So it's about the authenticity aspect. What do you say about that?
It's a big school. So if that case specifically, I don't think it's any of his business. If he was approached by a PR company and they told him no, but then you have to pay for us to feature you, he can just say no and that's it. As simple as that. Now, at different levels, you want to reach different people.
Mhm.
And that reach can only be achieved by paid media. So it's really a strategic move to go to paid media. That's why when we started, if you remember, it's wrong to start with paid media. You need to build the base. You need to build the authentic presence of who you are and what you do. Then moving to paid media is just to amplify the message, to reach more people, not to define who you are and what you do. You see the difference?
Okay.
So let's go to the basics of marketing, right? We have the funnel, awareness, consideration, conversion, and loyalty. It's 4 stages.
Correct.
If you go straight paid media for a personal brand, you will hit a wall most of the time because nobody knows who you are and you're paying for people to know who you are. But when they go down the content, they don't see enough content to let them actually understand who you are. And the content structure has to be different. So in awareness, I want people to know my name and my face. That's the awareness level, right? So Ameer, marketing, communication. That's what I want people to know at the awareness level. But if I go to consideration, then now I have to teach people about marketing and communication. People have to see me as a source of expertise at this level. So they move from knowing me to actually consider me as a potential maybe company to help them or an advisor or whatever it is. Then in the conversion, I have to give them an offer. I have to tell them, by the way, we do consulting, $500 per hour if you need any help related to communication. I have to give them an offer. Sometimes they don't have the whole funnel. Then what happens is they're at the awareness, here's who I am and this is what I do, but there's no actual substance later. So, okay, cool, who you are, nice. Then you look them up, there's no other pieces of content. So paid media at the beginning is always wrong, especially for personal branding. But if you have a product and you want to sell, then you will do the paid media straight to a landing page where you take people through the consideration and you give them a call to action to the end to buy the product. So you can move the funnel much faster in digital marketing, I would say product selling, e-commerce. But for personal brands, what your goal is to move people from knowing you to liking you to trusting you. And that takes time and takes depth of content and depth of presence, especially online.
Now, while you were talking, I just had a case study popping up just now of a previous case, maybe 3-4 years ago. I'm not quite sure. It is here in Riyadh. I believe it was a Chamber of Commerce election.
Okay.
Okay. What happened is, as you mentioned, is that there was an election time, and one of the candidates, he went full paid media across all channels. So
Wow.
I believe there was a meme where wherever you go, if you open your door, you'll always find that person's face, because it was a person itself, because it was an election. It's about who was gonna vote for that guy. I'm not gonna mention any names, but it was a chamber conference election, and the guy was everywhere. So the reach was at a maximum.
Wow.
So I believe if you compare it to the funnel that you just mentioned, marketing funnel, it was all about awareness and immediate call to action. Vote for me. Vote for me. And I'm not sure if there was a program or whatever, but people were always saying that, okay, that guy's face was everywhere. It reached to the point where some people say it was kind of annoying. It became a meme. So if you relate that case study back to what you were saying, where would you say? Would you say that in this kind of case, for example, an election, or I want to be known across all, even though if people don't necessarily interact with the Chamber of Commerce, but I want my name to be known, even though my association would be with a meme.
Sure, but this one takes us to a campaign, right? So this is a campaign.
In a sense, yes.
So there is a beginning, there's a call to action, and there's an end in terms of time.
Correct.
Right? So the goal here was definitely something called mere exposure. The mere exposure effect means if we see something in high frequency, we will somehow automatically like it more. Just the mere exposure effect.
Everywhere I'm seeing it.
If you're seen everywhere, the eye gets used to it. People get familiar with the look and the feel and who this person is. And that automatically, over time, scientifically, obviously, gets people to like you more just because of the mere exposure.
So it helps with personal branding?
100%. But he used, I don't know who he is, honestly, and I don't think I was in Saudi during that time. He used that campaign to basically make himself known, to create his name. And regardless whether he wins or not, he has actually become a meme, right? So it's a cultural moment. So he has achieved that. He has basically taken a place in time. Now, I don't know how the campaign was done, but it would be amazing if during the campaign showed his expertise. What's his experience? What's his expertise?
His name was well known. That's
just a know. So he has at the awareness level increased super high awareness.
Yes.
If you look him up now, I hope he had a landing page where you go see his qualification, who he is, what he has done, and all of that before you vote. Obviously, it has to be like this. Then, in this case, he might have done a good campaign to get his awareness super high, but I don't know the quality of the consideration and the conversion and whether he won or not.
What if we're going to talk about it from not just exposure level, from sustainability level?
It's not made to be sustainable. That was a campaign. It's not always on campaign.
Yes.
So building a personal brand is basically on organic content that you consistently create and share.
Correct.
So consistency is the most important element regarding personal brands. You're consistently talking about a specific topic in a specific platform in a specific way, whether it's video, writing, posts, whatever kind of content, especially at the beginning. Later, you start going across all media. You become a speaker into events, moderator in another, maybe an article every once in a while, then you do your social media content. It becomes a whole funnel of content that takes people from awareness all the way to become super fans or people who trust you.
Okay. Now, we just mentioned something that, before, and I'd like to highlight that, and I believe it's taken a huge chunk in today's media, AI.
Of course.
AI, especially when it comes to personal branding. Now, let's take LinkedIn as an example.
Sure.
Where a lot of audience now people now have reached to the point of kind of discriminating between what's AI written articles or AI written paragraphs versus human written paragraphs. Now, on that level, how does AI help when it comes to personal branding? Is it like the associate, the helper, or should people, let's say, rely on it on a certain percentage when it comes to that?
So again, we go back to the definition, right? When you are already following the person, you're seeing the content they publish on social media, let's say LinkedIn as an example. Now AI did not get to the point where it gets to the what you called a human written content, right? It's in that transition, and maybe within the next few months, you will not be able to differentiate the two, right? So we just go back, and I always tell even my team, AI is just getting you back to focus on the idea you're working on.
Meaning?
Technology continues to develop that we no longer think about the tools. We actually have to purify and think about the ideas. The higher the quality of the idea, the more you can execute it. Meaning, if you just write articles and you don't have solid ideas, you will have a lot of articles out, but they will look super terrible and they don't have quality and there's no substance.
Just quantity without quality.
Exactly. Quantity with no substance. It's not even about quality. It's actually, there's no message. Right?
Just written paragraphs and that's it.
Just written, people see it, skim it, okay, yalla ma salama. It's not an amazing piece of content. Now, that's why you really have to focus on the core mastery of whatever field you want to be known in. So you can actually write content people want to read, even with the use of AI. because AI is just executing what you're saying. And if you don't have the right terminology, if you don't have the depth of mastery and understanding of your topic, you will write content using AI that's actually superficial. Because the language you're using to give it, the prompts you're writing are actually superficial. Therefore, you get what you ask for. So the more knowledge and the more mastery you have in your field, the better questions you ask, the better prompts you give, the better the outcomes. So we're going back to the same idea. If you're not a master of what you're talking about, if you don't know what you're talking about very well, your knowledge is going to be superficial. Therefore, AI will give you knowledge that you like because you only know superficial, and it will just like you will like it, and then you will publish it. But if you have the eye and you have the depth of knowledge and you have the mastery, al-itqan, of what you're executing, you will not accept something that's mediocre. You will not publish something that's not actually high level and thought provoking.
That people should not, correct me if I'm wrong, should not use AI without prior knowledge. So, okay, for example, I'm going to use AI, but at least before I even approach AI, Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever tool it is, I have a standard. I have exactly what I want to say, but it's about forming it, going back to the basic idea. What's the message that I want to deliver? And then, okay, help me to craft that content rather than, okay, I'm completely 100% depending on AI. Is that correct? So,
I think I can take it from another side.
please go ahead.
There's something in Arabic that says وَمَنْ ذَاقَ عَرَفْ.
Okay.
In English,
who
it's
tried who tried knows.
who have tasted something knows its flavor,
Correct.
right? So if you don't have the mastery level on whatever you do, you will not know what a good quality of it looks like. Because you're not a master of it. Meaning, if you will take another example, if I give you a camera and you're not an expert in the camera, you're most likely going to take a mediocre picture, right? But if you're an expert, you'll be able to understand where the light is coming from, what angle to take it with, the timing. Maybe you wait for 5 minutes for the sun to move a little bit. Maybe you go to a different corner. You know how to build the composition for an image to be taken, and it will look incredible, right? So put a person and give 10 people 10 cameras and see how they take pictures of the exact same person. So AI is basically the click of the picture. It's just back in the days, if you remember, there was a whole big camera, you put the film, you take a picture for 10 minutes, nobody moves, then you get the image. Now it's just a click and you take the picture, right? AI is exactly the same thing. It's just accelerating the execution of your vision. And if you don't have a vision, it will just execute based on whatever the average of the market is doing. Right? So the more knowledgeable you are and the more expertise you have in what you're asking the AI to execute, the better the outcomes are going to be. So you need to build your competencies. You need to build your vocabulary, your questions, and your way of asking or requesting or prompting the AI. And the higher the quality of your knowledge and your thought process, the higher the quality of the outcomes. So it will help you just execute it faster. That's it.
So it's about kind of putting AI as part of my arsenal rather than, okay, depending on it. Here's a question on that regard. Do you think that with the massive flood of AI-driven written articles or pieces of content, it's gonna eventually affect anyone who's doing using AI as a helper? So, for example, I'm using AI, yes, but again, I have the prior knowledge, but I'm using AI just for that execution or the click of the camera. Going back to that to your analogy. But at the same time, you have a massive flood of AI-driven articles or AI-driven pieces of content that's eventually going to affect me, like either in the short term or the long term. So how can someone, let's say, differentiate himself on that context, on that regard?
I think you'll just become more, we will become as humans a lot more alert and a lot more specific on how we evaluate things.
Okay.
Because the more exposure you get, the sharper. Think of it as a knife and you're sharpening this knife. So the more exposure, the more sharper you're going to become. So we are developing as the technology is developing. We're not static and the technology is developing. We are developing as the technology is developing. And how we interact with technology also is developing over time. It's evolution of a humankind, right? So these technologies are human-made, and now they're developing based on what we actually think they could be. And as they develop, we also develop. I can look at the screen now, I'm like, oh, my brightness is this, my contrast is this, the color is going to be this and this and that. Why? Because I understand the technology and I understand what that technology means to me. Why? Because I was exposed to it more. I did a lot of shoots, handled lots of cameras, saw lots of monitors. Therefore, I can understand what it means. Now, as we get exposed to a lot of AI content, over time, we will have a sharper eye to judge whether is this written by the person or not. And the other element, which also is important, is the consistency of the tone and voice of the writer. So AI has its own voice and tone, which everybody can pick, but as you customize it and it learns more about how you write and what you want to show, it will actually start writing within your style. And that you can only achieve it with prompting it properly, with saying, this is my tone, this is my voice, this is my writing style, this is what I've written in the past. Write in a style that looks like this, that sounds like this, use these terms, these are the words I use frequently. Then it becomes somehow a writer with your style. But again, if it doesn't have a core solid idea or a question or an opinion, it will just write random content. And just because the way AI works is, what is the most likely word to come after this word?
Yes, LLMs and
That's how it works.
Yes.
What is the most likely word? But if you don't have any constraints, if you don't have any training or prompting that you have done, instructions, it would just literally go to the next possible word for this. And it continues like that.
Okay. Now, with this, I want to move into something that you have mentioned before, but let's dig deeper into it, which is now, before it was social media influencers, non-social media influencers. I'm talking about here in the market of the kingdom and the surrounding countries. Now, going more into the micro influencers, macro influencers with specifications, because now the market has become more governed and people know the differentiation, especially within the market. People who have 10,000 followers are not the same as 100,000 or not the same as a million. Now, while I was doing some research about the topic, there are two schools of thought. I'd like to hear your opinion on that regard. One school of thought is saying you have, when it comes to personal branding, you have the guy or the person who has, let's say, 1 million followers, but he is a jack of all trades. He's well known for this, and that. Another guy who has, let's say, tenth of the number, 10,000, 100,000 followers, but he's specific, for example, on art. And he's more of a community based approach. That guy is a massive reach. The guy's more of community based. Now, from your perspective, which is more effective when it comes to the overall personal branding and communicating with others?
The idea here is quite tricky because
In
you
what
have to
sense?
think, when you are using creators, whether you call them influencers or creators or whatever you want to call them, expertise, your goal is to think, they have to think, where am I going to be seen, right? The ones with the highest number of followers usually is celebrities. So we go to that level of social status, maybe bigger deals, bigger name, bigger projects. So it's associated with execution,
Okay.
not just the number of following. The number of following nowadays, 2026, is absolutely useless.
Really?
It's not relevant at all.
Oh.
What's relevant now is the idea and the actual structure of the piece of content. Is it optimized for the personal brand on the platform at the right time with the right length and call to action, and most importantly, hook?
Okay.
So now it's the optimization of the piece of content. You can create a new account and post a couple of incredible videos, and your reach is going to be better than that guy with 10 million. It's no longer relevant. The number of followers, absolutely irrelevant these days.
Doesn't help with the algorithm and
At all. It's the power of the video and very specifically the watch time. So if the watch time of your video is increasing, this video is useful, we will show it to more people so we can show more ads, period. Now, open your account, see if the content you see is actually from people you follow.
80%, 70%, not really. No.
So it's not about the number of people you follow. It's actually used to be interest-based. meaning the followers will see the content you share that's actually under their interest. Now, it's not about followers, it's interest only, period. Are you sharing content that people are interested in? Yes. Are they watching it? Yes. Show it to more people. If they show it to more people, they can show more ads. That's it. That's the business model of all platforms. And the one who interrupted this whole algorithm design was TikTok. They came in with interest-based. They didn't care about who is following who. The last thing they cared about is the followers. Does this content hit a specific emotion? Dopamine, cytokinin, serotonin, cortisol, whatever the different neurotransmitters within that specific topic, and it's getting people's attention. That's what I care about. I'm going to show it to more people who are interested in that. Regardless. That's why when TikTok started, it was the best thing for anyone on Instagram to create a TikTok account, because that TikTok account is going to grow their Instagram.
Okay.
Because they would create they're really good creators. They create the content in TikTok. It reaches a lot more people. Then when they come to their TikTok, it's new. They go to their Instagram and follow them there.
Referrals.
It was the strongest engine of growing your Instagram, having a TikTok account. This is 2021, 22.
Okay.
Now we got into saturation, where all platforms are basically fighting for your attention. And
Yes.
the only thing that basically gets your attention is if I get you content you're interested in. And the way I determine that is the watch time. So the more thing you watch, the more time you spend on a specific piece of content, I automatically label you interested in that content. And it will immediately show you more content like that.
Okay.
So number of followers no longer matter. A lot of big influencers are struggling now because it's no longer showing their content. If the content is not as solid as it used to be, they have 1,000 views and their account has 8 million.
Wow.
Big shift. So the numbers are cool. They give you positioning. They give you nice perception when people open your account. Wow, he has X amount of followers. But what really matters now is what kind of content you're sharing. And is it solid? Are you actually sharing content that actually moves people from knowing you to liking you to trusting you?
At the same time, if I may bring kind of a counter argument, where someone would say the number of followers is like your hallway to your house. It's like the first thing that people would see. So the number
Yes.
of followers, and
Yeah,
so-
but what I'm trying to say is, even if you get the follower, they click follow, but they go to the content and they don't like it, they will never see another piece of content from you again.
So just a number, and that's it.
It's just a number that shows that maybe you appeared on TV, maybe you did a paid campaign, maybe you did a good collaboration that got a lot of people to follow your account. But those people who followed you, if you don't put enough good content for them, the algorithm or the platform will show them other content they like, and not yours.
Okay.
So priority your content if it's within what they like. But if it's not, they're definitely not going to show it to them and lose them leaving the platform.
Because there's, I believe, some platforms, maybe X, and even Instagram, where some people are offering that services of adding followers to your account, fake followers.
Yeah, it's fine.
So to a point, I still remember that I went to a bit of a company and I checked their Instagram account. Their Instagram account was like 500K followers. I was like, wow, that's a lot. I checked their posts. Their impressions don't even exceed 100. Something doesn't make sense. So I believe it intrigues you as a user at some point. So it's like, yes, I was hooked by the number of followers, but the more I dig deep into it, it's like if I make a simple audit, most of them are fake followers. So
well, most people don't do that. Right? So you're
Mhm.
interested, you want to investigate, but that happens in reality, nobody cares. People
Yes.
are opening their social media and they're just scrolling down and they're exploring different pieces of content. If they like it, they will follow. Only 2% actually see the feed. If you see your account now, you will see content from someone you don't follow. On the reel, there's a click of follow if you're interested.
Yes.
So most people don't even open the actual feed, like the actual landing page
Yes.
of the platform. Most people don't see it at all. So it's really not relevant. Rarely that you see actual accounts of people. Just remember, when was the last time you actually entered and you saw, oh, they have a lot of followers, they have
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Most of the time, it doesn't happen. Nobody cares. Unless you're a company who wants to do a campaign with this influencer, then now
Yes.
you're going into how many followers they have, what kind of content they create. But that represents what from the population? Nothing. How
Okay.
many agencies are running campaigns for influencers versus the population on social media? It's a
Mm,
very small number of people. So it's
okay.
not relevant.
Okay. Okay.
You can have the 5 million followers on your account, but the reason is just positioning. Fine, you achieve your goal. You have the positioning. We have 5 million. And a lot of companies, for sadly, بالأسف, that's what I wanted to say,
Mhm.
their focus is on the number of followers because they are super outdated. Maybe the CMO, the CEO, the director, or whatever knows back in the day when the number of followers mattered. But nowadays, it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
But if they want, get them the 5,000 followers. Who cares? That's what they want. They want 5,000. Give them 5,000 followers. But make sure the content on the platform actually justifies the 500,000 followers. Get real content that actually gets people's attention. Get the actual storyline. Because if it's not, then you just shot yourself in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
You told people you're this, then a few seconds later, they see the content and it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Why are those people following this account?
Okay.
You know what I
So
mean? So it actually shoots you in the foot. But if you just want the parameters and you want to show the CEO or the board members,
that
we
I've
have
made my
reached this
job.
number. But it's for me, it's lying. And honestly, it's not even worth lying about. Because what matters is what people say about you. If your content is out there and nobody's seeing it, there's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't really represent your personal brand and affects people trust in you, then they know you, they don't like you, and definitely don't trust you. The
Okay.
goal is to move people from knowing you to liking you to trust you. If it doesn't move people down the funnel, there's an issue. And most companies, they don't work on that organic content base.
Mm-hmm.
They see social media platforms as magazines,
Okay.
documenting specific important moments in life, and they think people will care about it. Nobody cares.
Okay.
Nowadays, unfortunately, but that's the reality. Nobody cares about the fact that you did X to your employees.
Happy Father's Day.
Nobody cares. You can document it just like back in the days as your own newsletter in the
Mm.
company. Do it in internal communication within the company, within what's happening internally. But to tell the world about it is not necessarily the most amazing or important thing. You can tell the world about it from a different point of view. If your employees opened LinkedIn and said it was absolutely amazing that we did this and this and that in the organization, it will have a completely different effect
Rather
than
than the
you
organization's.
talking,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Let the beneficiaries, people, talk about how much fun they had when they were in this activity or in this trip or this training program or whatever that's happening. So nowadays, authenticity is extremely, extremely hard to achieve because most people are still using old ways, thinking they're doing articles on a magazine page, not telling the real story of what happened in the organization. So for employees in companies, there's a really good opportunity. They could actually be the stars of their organizations.
Mm-hmm.
They can tell the stories of what's happening in the organization. They can tell the amount of development they are experiencing in their organization, and that will result in them getting better jobs, better offers, and better positions. And most of the time, it will actually scare the seniors. Oh, we have this person, he's too loud. Yeah, the VPs will be like, oh, this guy is always posting on LinkedIn.
Is it valid for them to have that fear?
Obviously, it is there. It's a transitional time. You will have a lot of people who are afraid of showing off. There's that political element of people in organization who's talking, who's not, what they're saying, and what they're not. But if you focus on your take on things, your opinion on these experiences, and how these things have shaped your experience, you're not basically judging what something is right or wrong, or you're saying your opinion on something that's out of your scope, then now you're getting into a critical area.
Mhm.
But if you're telling your story, if you're talking about how you're developing, how you're being affected by things that are happening, whether it's inside the organization or outside, you're talking about your opinion. You're representing yourself. You're not representing the organization. You're not representing where you work. Because for me, that's the highest risk that you can achieve, is to be associated with where you work. Everything you talk about is about where you work. Everything you say is about what happened.
At a moment's notice, you might leave and
No, because you're associating, you're putting too much attention on the organization
Mhm.
that you no longer have your own thoughts and your own ideas.
Mhm.
So personal branding is about personal first before branding.
Yes.
Branding is the organization, right? Branding is the logos you put around you, is the environment you speak in. But the real element of personal branding is who you are, what you like, what you do, why you do it, how is this transforming you, how is this making you a step closer towards who you want to be in the future.
Now, I'd like just to, on the side, before, just I'd like to hear your comments in a couple of minutes before moving into another topic. And now, I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, that some organizations, they don't say it like explicitly, but implicitly, they want their employees, be it government, non-government, to be active on LinkedIn to support the brand of the organization itself. So they ask them, okay, so post more on LinkedIn, on social media platforms, put the emblem of our organization, so that okay, it's more effective. Now, do you think, from your perspective, is it like a good approach, or not really, not sustainable?
I think it's a really good approach if it's done properly.
What's done properly?
It's giving people enough content to talk about.
Okay.
Give them a reason to talk organically. If you just push them to talk, most people don't know what to post, including creators. We work with some big creators. One of their biggest issues, I don't know what content I'm creating. You go into like panic. What would be the next thing that people would like me to say or to do or whatever? So even creators, they struggle with that, let alone people who just work in an organization. Organization is telling them, write about us and what we're doing. You have to give people a piece of content. You have to give them content to actually write content. Here's our vision of what we want to achieve this year. And each one of you could be part of this vision. What do you think is the thing you can do? Then listen to people. People will talk. People have discussions. Here's what we do. Here's a training program. Here's a trip. Here's a company gathering. Here's a social activity for the team. Give them substance they can talk about. Ask them questions. Send them an internal communication. People have to feel like, oh, I have some. One of the most common thing now you can see on LinkedIn is the welcoming kit.
Yes.
It's a piece of content.
Mhm.
They have given it to employees, and employees now can take a picture of it and say, I'm excited to start this journey,
Mhm.
right? So there is a piece of content that allows them to talk. So it's not an issue that they cannot or they don't want to talk, right? It's just they don't have enough content to talk.
Mhm.
So if you build your, I would call it organization content or touch points with their employees, you give them opportunities to create content. You create your internal events where people can actually take pictures. You give them the pictures. They would most likely gonna post it.
Mhm.
But if you come to me and you tell me, talk about what you're doing in the company, most employees will be like, I don't know what you guys are doing, right? And they don't even know what they're allowed to say or not. Most of the time, they're not told what are the limits of what could be shared or not.
Mhm.
This could be seen as a breach of privacy. This could, you know what I mean? So it's very important that the organization creates, content pieces. Here's what you can say about our plan this year. You do a whole event, guys, you're more than welcome to take pictures or film videos about this activity that we're going to do.
I
So
believe.
the culture of the organization has to be structured and created around the idea that employees can create content. If the culture doesn't accept that,
Mm.
then obviously nobody's going to create.
I believe there's one incident in one of the ministries here in Saudi Arabia, in the annual gathering they had, and they made a competition of who's gonna post a post on LinkedIn regarding this
Activation.
activation, and the person who gets more impressions, more likes, is gonna have an award. They did that. I'm not sure what happened after that, but they did. It's like they put it like internally that okay, they were encouraging people to post on LinkedIn, and you're gonna have an award. Something I'm not sure, a vacation or something. I'm not quite sure, but that kind of thing to intrigue them to start that thing. Now, let's go to the very different kind of extreme. So, for example, a university student who is in orientation level, someone who has just started
Okay.
his journey of real life, so to speak,
Okay.
one way or the other. And at that moment, that specific age, I still remember that. At that moment, I didn't even know what I want to do. I was just okay. It's just about exploring myself. I was
Perfect. Do you
still
see that? Exploring yourself.
yes,
That's all you have to post about.
exploring the whole thing.
That's all I did in university.
Mhm.
Today I'm doing this. Today I'm going to this event. Today I'm doing this because I want to do this and that. Today I'm going to this specific road trip. I want to explore Canada. I want to understand what's happening around Montreal. I was in Montreal. So I was like, okay, guys, we're going on a trip. I created an account called Salt Mubtath, just talking about the challenges
Mm.
as a student on a scholarship in Montreal goes through and just publishing different things to tell the story. So the important element is to talk about your thought process, your journey. We just talked about this
Mm.
in whatever level you're in. You could be a student, and there are a lot of students now, extremely tech savvy. They're building their own nonprofit
Yes.
organizations or their own initiatives or their own companies, whatever it is. Just tell the story and the challenges, and most importantly, what is that you want people to do with you. Hook, story, call to action. What's the hook? What's the most important thing? What's the most interesting thing about what you're going to say? Tell me the story about it. Then give me the call to action. The call to action could be stay with me on this journey. I don't know where I'm going to be. I'm in this university in my first day. I don't know what I'm going to be when I graduate.
Mhm.
However, we're going to live this experience together, and I'm going to tell you my opinion
Mhm.
on the courses, on the challenges as a university student, as living in this city, as.
Mhm.
So remember, the beginning of your journey is just literally documenting your thought process as you make important decisions towards what you want to be.
Okay. Now, with that, now we go move into an idea which is, I believe, you are very familiar with, which is the first impression aspect,
Important.
be it uh, e-meeting or personal meeting. Now, it's not just about university students or even juniors or seniors, even to the highest level. The idea of first impression, especially when it comes to e-meetings. Some people would say, I want to, for example, approach this guy in a certain event, or I want to send this guy a message about certain collaboration aspect. From a personal branding perspective, how should someone, let's say, approach that level or that person by defining himself? So some people would say, hello, my name is like this, I work at this, I'm happy to collaborate with you, and send him whatever documents. Others
Okay.
would say, I'm going to give him a whole article, like, for example, this is what I am, this is what I'm doing, this is why I approached you, blah, 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 blah. This is my proposal.
I think it depends on the ask.
Please.
It depends on the ask. Are you asking them for an interview? Are you asking them for their opinion? Are you asking them to meet them? The more the transaction is big, the more you have to say. That's what I would like to make it in relational aspect. If your goal is just they give you their opinion on a specific article that you're writing, it's very different than you say, I would like to have an interview with you,
Okay.
or I'd like you to be my mentor, or I would like you to be my partner in the company. It's a completely different ask. So based on the ask, you need to introduce enough information to justify the ask that you're asking.
Should a person have a personal brand mentor at an early stage, or not necessarily?
No, you just have to be true to yourself. So don't oversell yourself. Don't overpromise. The worst thing you can do is to, brand is a promise, right?
It is.
So if you overpromise, this is who I am and what I do and who I am known for, then reality or not, you just lost trust. And it's very hard to build it again.
It is.
So take your time. Don't ask for big things at the beginning. Ask for small things. Build the relationship. When you build the relationship, you see if that person is even the right person to ask or not. So always work first, building your relationship, then you go into the asks. Because you don't want to also ask something the other person cannot even do.
Such as? for example?
You're asking them for example, you want them to be a guest in your podcast. They've never been a guest on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want them to look weak saying, no, I've never been on a podcast. This is not a good thing for me. They might just ignore you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Instead of telling you, no, I don't feel comfortable in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So building the relationship, understanding that dynamic. And by the way, the most important thing you can work on in your personal brand is actually building the relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Because building the relationship moves you all the way down to trust.
Does.
That's why smaller influencers usually have a lot more trust with their audience than mega influencers with big numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they have actual interaction with their audience. Different than the ones with big accounts and a lot of followers.
Okay. Now, with this, I want to move into something that you just like tapped into a bit, where in business world, some people would say, let's say, have that again. Schools of thought are everywhere, as you mentioned. You have multiple schools of thought, multiple opinions, and all of them are valid. But I'd like to hear your take on it.
One,
Where in business, some people would say that associating yourself as a person with your business, yes, it expedites your business, but at the same time, it puts it at a risk. So,
mm,
for example, you as a person, and I'm very associated with my business. At any given moment, if something happens to me, people might, for example, I have a backlash on me personally, it might affect my business. The other side of it is like, you know what, I'm gonna build my business on its own. I have my own personal brand, so I'm gonna separate the whole thing entirely so that my business is being built on its own, even though it's steadily building. But again, it's on the safe zone while I'm building my personal brand on its own. So it doesn't interact one way or the other. So but on a day-to-day basis of people asking me, is this your business? Yes, I would respond, yes, this is my business, but I'm not let's say talking out loud that this is my business.
okay.
So which of these approaches are you, let's say, with or against, or what's your take on them both?
I think they both work, and they're not only both, they're everything in between. It's just what you choose as you build your company, right? So if you're building it alone and you are funding it, so obviously it's much faster for you to build it on your own personal brand. If you're building a brand and you have funds and you have a lot of people coming into this and you want to build something extremely humongous, let's say Tamara or Tabi or any of these unicorns level companies, then obviously you want to focus on the value proposition, the actual product and the client, and you focus on that idea of the business. So the more scalable the business is, the more you want it to be branded as a brand on its own, and the more trust-based business is, the more you want it to be personal brand driven, especially at the beginning, because you don't want to raise funds too early, lose a lot of equity in your company. Then now you want to build it with the personal brands. If you want to raise funds and you don't mind because you know the scale of the company is going to be extremely big, then you can definitely focus it on a brand on its own and you build the brand positioning of the brand itself. Regardless of which one you choose, definitely a personal brand is going to be faster in terms of growth.
Mm-hmm.
A business is going to take a lot longer time, but because you're strategically making your moves and you're fulfilling a specific pain in the market through the product you're selling. So if you're I would give an example. Give me a brand that sells a service.
Tabi or Tamara or
Let's go Tamara,
let's go.
right?
Okay.
Tamara, nobody cares who's behind it, right?
Yes.
Nobody cares. It's I want to pay now, pay later, right? Buy now, pay later. So I don't really care who's providing me the service. I care that the service exists at the organization
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to buy products from. On the other hand, if you're going into, I would say, communication,
Arba'a.
marketing, you can go, yeah, for example, you want to do marketing. Marketing is very critical because marketing, you can go to a company, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to go more into personal aspects, it would be, for example, buying a collector car. Trust is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
So to buy a very expensive watch or a very expensive car, I need to trust
The person.
where this is coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Very different world. So here, personal brand is going to be extremely important because I need the brand to be associated with a specific person to de-risk the fact that this is actually authentic, real, good, collectible.
Mm-hmm.
See the difference?
Okay. Then what's your take on now the current wave, so to speak, that regardless government, non-government, non-profit, so on and so forth, a lot of them now it's about for the people on top, for the CEOs, the VBs, for them to interact more, to be more visible on the media. What's your take on that?
It's very important. It shows the people behind the work. I think people now are paying attention who's getting the work done, who's leading this organization. People are becoming more vigilant in terms of, is this automated? Is this done locally? المحتوى المحلي, local content. There's a lot of focus on who is behind this. What are the goals? What are the intentions behind whatever is being executed? So when you see the people, you somehow have more trust versus then just you see the product or the outcome.
Is it to make it more accountable so that when I say something, I know exactly who I'm gonna direct my accountability towards?
It could be part of the strategy.
Because, for example,
It's just exactly the idea you mentioned earlier,
mm,
which is it risky for the company or not? It's not. It's just the reality of the world right now. People want to know who's behind whatever is in front of them to make the trust easier, because things change, can develop. There's AI. AI is increasing uncertainty. Who's doing this? So that human element now, and you will see it even more in the future. There's a lot more importance on who's behind this.
mm,
Who is behind this? Why are they doing this? What's the story behind it? How then people want to see the whole digital footprint of how this person moved from here to here, how they got to this product, how they got to this outcome.
okay.
So that is going to be a lot more important now and definitely more in the future.
Thank you very much, Amir. Do you have any last remarks or a question that you would have wished that you were asked?
Honestly, no. I think we can talk about this forever. So I think now we talked about an hour and a half. This is my world. I've been in this since I ever learned about the fact
Mhm,
that there's something called marketing,
mhm.
and more and more and more when I started working with the creators. I think if there's one thing I can end this episode with, it will be around the idea that we always are afraid of what people say about us. For some reason, it's very, very important. And this is what personal branding.
Fear?
This is what personal branding is at this point. It's what people say about us. So you could be intentional and actually put the data, put the information, put the track record of how you got to where you are. This will be your biggest protection layer whenever something happens in the future. People will go back and say, here's what he has done over time. He just made this one mistake.
You have the legacy. You have your
You will
legacy.
build the credibility over time. So your digital footprint is going to be your protection layer.
Mm.
You can do risk management. You can do lots of different, read books and what to do in the first 60 seconds, 5 hours, 5 days, and all of that world in terms of managing risks online. But the real work you need to do is now saying what actually represents who you are and what you want to achieve and where you want to go and who can help you. And the more you talk about it, the more you document it, the more you show the world who you are and your thought and things, the more you will end up having to learn. And most importantly, the more you will be competent. And if you become more competent, the whole society is going to benefit, number one. And most importantly, you will benefit even more because you will move from just mainstream, somebody who's documenting their life, to somebody with an opinion and an actual take on things within their expertise and within the niche they're interested in.
Thank you very much, Mr. Albahouth.